everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I have a romance recommendations video for you, and that's Possessive and Protective Heroes. So I recently read some Possessive and Protective Heroes. I also reached out on my Instagram and was like, hey, what trope do you guys want to see as like a romance recommendations video? And my friend Heather from Booktubes was like, Possessive and Protective, and I was like, I'm gonna give it to you. So I've been wanting to talk about some of these heroes. I just didn't know if they all fit into one category. When she said that, I was like, yes, I'm gonna do a romance recommendation. So I have 7 to share with you. These are more recent reads. I didn't go like back too far, probably in the last couple months for me, just because I've been obsessed with these people and I love how protective and possessive they are over their women. So these are the 7 heroes that I want to talk about. Also, I want to show off my little shirt from Hello Lovely box. I don't really buy Hello Lovely. I don't really buy a lot of bookish shirts in general. If I have like extra money, I'd rather spend it on books. But I want to give away on Instagram. That was hosted by Jess from Peace Love Books and was basically sponsored by Hello Lovely box during the Historic Romance Readathon. And I picked out this shirt. It is like the softest shirt ever. So this is my first Hello Lovely anything. I'm obsessed. So now anytime I have like extra money, I'm gonna buy some more Hello Lovely box stuff. So anyway, we'll just get into the books. So I have, for the first one, is Lessons in Corruption by Gianna Darling. I have been obsessed with Gianna Darling's books, and when I read this one, I was like, I don't know how I feel about it because it's a student-teacher age gap romance. So we have King Guerrero, and he is the like son of the president of a motorcycle club. And then we have Cressida, and Cressida is his teacher. What? Anyway, they meet before King and Cressida realize it's like a student teacher thing, only because like they see each other in like a parking lot, and Cressida's like, oh my god, he's so beautiful, and King like knows immediately, like, I need to have her. She is going to be mine. And then like a couple months go by, like 2 months, I think, and he shows up in her classroom and she's like, hello, who are you? He's like, oh, I'm your student. And she's like, fuck. She's like, how is this supposed to like work? Like, I find him so attractive. So not only is it a good student teacher, like age gap romance, but King is so protective and possessive. I think partially has to do with her being she's going through a divorce, so they're separated. As soon as she saw King across the parking lot, she went home and she was like, this is not working, I want a divorce. And her husband, soon to be ex-husband, is an asshole and is like dragging the divorce out. He's kind of protective over her because of that, but also because like he just sees her as like this sunshine, this light in his life. It is so, oh my god, King is so amazing. Not only is he protective over her, like from anyone that gives her shit, he's like, no. He also writes poetry. He's super romantic. He's a genius, basically. He is like so swoon worthy too. Like, oh my god, he's just everything in an alpha hero, like wrapped into one. I love it. I love it so much. I love King. I think that it could be a motorcycle club thing that they're all pretty protective over their women. So as soon as like, that's my girl or that's my woman, they're all super protective. So Zeus, which is actually King's dad, who has his book is the second book. They're all, obviously this whole series is like very protective and possessive alpha heroes. But Zeus is also pretty protective of Cressida because he realizes the age gap. Not that like he cares. He's like, King knows what he wants. I don't really care, but he protects her as well because people will look down upon her because she's a teacher. So he kind of does his own thing of protecting her. It's really cute. I love it. The whole series the Fallen Men series is fantastic. Like, it's amazing. Anyway, but I do have another Gianna Darling that's also in this series, and that's Inked in Lies by Gianna Darling. So I'm choosing these two only because King is like super protective, more possessive, more than protective. But Nova is very protective of Leela. I knew I was going to love this book, but I didn't realize how much I was going to love. So this is probably, Inked in Lies is probably my favorite in the Fallen Men series, hands down. Like, hands down. So it's kind of like a brother's best friend, friends to lovers. There's a lot of tropes in here, but Nova and Leela have known each other from when Leela was very young. Since she was 6 years old, she basically fell in love with Nova when she was 6 years old. This is also an age gap Are we surprised? No. It works though. Like it's done so beautifully. And Nova, I think they're 10 years apart. Yeah, I think Nova's exactly 10 years older than her. And he's protective in like that brotherly way at first. So he wants to protect her from everything bad, even though she has gone through so much stuff when she's young. There was one point, I don't think this is a spoiler because it happens pretty early on. She has to watch her mother die and like in her arms, and she's like screaming, like watching her mother die. And like Nova doesn't really do anything because there's nothing you can do at that point. But he comes and just like sits behind her and like wraps his arms around her. Now, granted, this is when she's 6 years old, so it's more of like the protective, but that protectiveness really grows into possessiveness when she's older. I think she's like 23. And they finally like just let go and fall into their feelings for each other, and he becomes like so possessive. He doesn't want her to do this and that and this and that. He wants her to stay right next to him, and it's just I love Nova so much. Like he loves he's a tattoo artist, and one of the big things in this book is that he obviously tattoos everyone in the motorcycle club, but he tattoos Leela as well. And so his like artwork is like all over her body because she's obviously in love with his work, duh. But like it's just so beautiful because all of the artwork that he's created for Leela is like on her body. And if that's not like the definition of like possessiveness, knowing that like your artwork is all over this woman's body, like I don't know what is, you know what I mean? I feel like he is just like the perfect hero, because not only does he protect her when she's younger, he also becomes super possessive over her when she's older, and it's just perfect. I love them. That's the only 2 books that I'm going to talk about from the Fallen Moon series. All of them could honestly fit into this, but that's the 2 that I want to talk about because they're my favorite. The next book I have is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. So this is actually like a really popular book, to be honest. Like a lot of people love this book, and I did too. I loved it. So this book follows Alex, and he is like, how do you describe him? I don't know. He's like a badass, like business guy, but like I don't know how to describe him. He's just like so different than a lot of male characters that I've read before. And like I guess this also could count as like brother's best friend more. So he's protective over Ava, which is our female character, but it's more in like the I respect my best friend, and this is my best friend's sister, so I'm going to protect her and do everything I can that she doesn't get into trouble. Now, it's funny. It's hilarious because Ava's friends are like, no, he loves you. And she's like, no, he doesn't like me. Like, he just thinks of me as like his best friend's sister. There's nothing there. So basically they do these like things, little things. Ava goes along with it too. She does these little things that like make him possessive over her, but it's more of like on the protective side as well. It's just really funny to see him go from like, I don't care, I have no feelings, and then it's like, oh shit, do I have feelings? Oh, and then it grows, and then like he just never lets her out of his sights. Like he moves her into his house. It's a great story. It's not dark. People may think it's dark. I don't think it's dark at all. But he is very, very, very alpha. Like I love him as a character. Like this isn't a mafia romance. I wouldn't categorize it as a mafia romance, but he is a morally great character, and he is in some shady business dealings, we'll just say. So he's just so possessive, so protective over Ava, and I just love to see his feelings grow and develop and change, because I'm like, yeah, dude, we all knew from the beginning. We all knew you were going to love her. You know what I mean? And I love that. The next book I have is Grip by Kennedy Ryan. So I just finished Still, which is the last book in this trilogy. So I have read all 3 books in this trilogy. They follow, so the first book is actually Flow, but it's more of a novella. This is like the second book, and this is Grip. The third book is Still. But Grip and Bristol's relationship develops across all 3 of those books. They're all amazing. I'm not going to talk about Still because it's going to make me cry. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Grip. So they meet in Flow when they're a little bit younger, and they have this attraction to each other, but to be honest, Grip's possessiveness is like light. Like it's like light, if that makes sense. So he's not like the super alpha hole, like super protective, but it's protective in like a lovable way, which I love, and I wasn't expecting it. So there's actually a part in Still that made me think of it, because like Bristol is his manager. This particular scene happens in the second book. or in the last book still, but basically she's meeting with this guy that wants to meet with Grip. Grip's a little bit late, but he's on the way, and the guy basically starts flirting with Bristol and was like, oh, let me just take you out to dinner, and I didn't know I love this type of possessiveness until it happened in Still, and it made me think, oh shit, he's super possessive, because like Grip shows up and he's like, hey man, how you doing, like shakes his hand all like, you know, nonchalant, right? And Bristol's kind of like on edge because she never really got to say like, I'm in a relationship, like, no, I'm not going out with you. So he's like, oh, I'm just trying to get, you know, Bristol to go on a date with me. And he's like, really? So he like pushes him a little bit, and all of a sudden like Grip's like, well, this is my girlfriend Bristol, and he like puts his arm around her, and Bristol's like, shit. Grip is so like, oh man, he is, oh, like I don't even have the words, to be honest, to describe Grip, because he does this throughout all the books where he's like slightly possessive and protective. Obviously he's protective over Bristol because that's his woman. He wants to make sure nothing happens to her, but the possessiveness like comes out kind of like in those moments. Like he loves her, like he loves having his hands on her, he loves everything about Bristol, but like the possessiveness shows up in like the non-traditional ways, and I love it. I love this series so much. I can't believe it took me this long to finish like the trilogy. I spread these books out over like a couple months, but if you haven't read this trilogy, read it. But I will say I'm putting him in as like a possessive and protective hero because it's in the non-traditional way. And I love that. I love that he's non-traditional in that way. So the next book I have is one that I read recently for the Historic Romance Readathon, and that's Highlander Most Wanted by Maya Banks. So, I mean, I feel like I could put both the first and second book on this list, but I'm just going to talk about this book because I read it recently. So this book follows Bowen and Genevieve, and this is a captor-captive historical romance, but it's not like super heavy on that. He just basically takes over the keep where she is staying, and she has a very, very sad past. Oh my god. And I wouldn't say Bowen is possessive in like the beginning of the book because he wants to keep Genevieve at arm's length, but when he realizes everything that she's been through, he like wraps her in this hug, that like a metaphorical hug I should say, and like just wants to like shade her from everything bad in the world. So it's not like the in-your-face possessiveness again, but it's so beautiful to watch him kind of like take on Genevieve and what she's gone through and like make her feel that she's worthy and that she's beautiful and everything like that. I mean, he's a Highlander. Like, come on. I feel like Highlanders are so protective and possessive anyway about anything, like their brothers, their keep, their family. But like when they have a woman, it's like next level shit. Do you know what I mean? And I really liked him because he, like everything that Genevieve has gone through in her past, he really makes her feel like it's okay. I'm not judging you for it. It's going to be okay. But what I love is that he would rather let her go and be happy without him than hold her and like cage her again. And that part to me is beautiful. Like that I feel like is possessive in its own way, knowing that like you love someone and you want to protect them from everything, and knowing that like letting her go would be the best. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if everyone will agree with me on like possessive, but I like that he's like possessive like Grip in the non-traditional way. And he's a Highlander. I mean, like, he has some level of possessiveness just because he's a freaking Highlander, but I love Highlanders. We all know this. I love the historical romances with Highlanders. It's one of my favorites to read. But definitely check out this series by Maya Banks, the Montgomerys and Armstrongs, because both the first and second book, they are possessive. I just recently read the second book, so that's the one I'm talking about. The next book I have to talk about is actually a recent release. It released last week, and it's Witches Get Stitches by Juliet Cross. So I love this Stay a Spell series. I talk about it all the time. It's an amazing paranormal romance series. I want to highlight Nico for a second, okay? Because not only is he a werewolf, and he has this like friendship with Violet, who's a witch. Oh my god, like him being a werewolf, whenever someone walks in and goes up to her, he's like, no. Like Nico is so like confident that him and Violet are gonna be together that he just lets her lets her do her thing. He understands Violet is a free spirit. She's a Spitfire. She's gonna do what she wants. But he like just lays back and like understands that, oh, she'll come to me when she's ready. I have like not read a book. I don't even remember the last time I read a book where a hero was so confident that no, we're gonna be together. It's fine. That, I mean, like, I will say, when his old crew kind of rolls into New Orleans, he has to become very protective and possessive because she's like technically like unclaimed. Not unclaimed, but because she doesn't want to be in a relationship with Nico. Violet puts Nico in like a friend zone, but when his old crew rolls in, he has to, you know, like make sure that they know that's his woman, but like without setting Violet off, if that makes sense. I love Nico because of not only he's a werewolf, but I like him because he understands how Violet is, because she's a Spitfire, because she's a free spirit. He like doesn't want to put her in the cage. Do you know what I mean? So like him being a werewolf is obviously very protective and possessive, but like when his old crew rolls in, oh man, he's like, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, you're gonna tell her that? She's not gonna like do very well with that, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And this book was so good. Like, each book in the Stay a Spell series, they're all possessive in their own way. But I feel like Nico is just more because he's so set and so self-confident that they're going to be together that he's just like, I mean, I let her do what she wants. But this is more friends to lovers. So like I said, they friend zone each other. But I love Violet. She actually, I know this is about heroes, but she actually becomes a little bit possessive of Nico. There's a moment where he's kind of like pushing her a little bit and he's flirting with another woman, and Violet comes in and was like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And he's like, oh, can't I? So we love a possessive hero, but when we have a possessive heroine, which I'll point out too, because she is, even though they're friend zoned, basically, they still have those moments where they're like, no, you can't do that, you're mine, but like unofficially mine. It's great. I love this book. I love this series. It's fantastic. The last book I have to talk about is It's Getting Scott in Here by Suzanne Enoch. So this is, I mean, I have the physical book, I just didn't grab it, but this title is hilarious. Like, that's the only reason why I picked up this book. Obviously, we have a Highlander. He's a Scottish Highlander, and he comes from Scotland to, like, the Tun in London. And the whole premise is that his older brother has to get married for the sake of their mother sending the money to their father in Scotland. And it's a big mess. It's a disaster. So basically, Niall has this like protectiveness over Amelia because he understands the importance of his older brother marrying Amelia. But like his older brother is like, I'm not doing this. I don't want her. I don't want to marry her. So basically, while his older brother is literally off doing his own thing, he's like playing the part of like the dutiful brother and making sure she has an escort and all this stuff. And that like naturally turns into like possessiveness. Oh my God, there's a moment where he like climbs through her bedroom window. Oh, I was like, oh my God, is this happening right now? He just didn't care. He had to have her. He had to make her his, and he was not going to wait. And his older brother obviously like doesn't care, but I was just like so shocked by that because like the possessiveness and the protectiveness comes from, I have to make this work for the sake of my family. So I'm going to play this part of the dutiful brother to make sure that, you know, like Amelia knows that like his older brother like actually does care about her, even though he's like, I don't want to marry her, but he like starts to develop those feelings and like, oh my God, it's so good. But when he comes through that window, he's like, I have to have you right now. I need you. I need everyone. I need to know going forward. Everyone knows, you know that I am yours and I'm like going to protect you. And I just want, oh, it's so good. I am someone who loves the possessive heroes that is like, I like you, I'm possessive of you, but I'm going to step in and do it every once in a while, if that makes sense. So that's why I'm adding this one on the list. Like I said, he's a Highlander, so of course he's like possessive and protective, obviously over his brothers and his family, but with Amelia, oh man, it switches halfway in the middle of the book and he's just like mine. So you can let me know if you have any of like your favorite possessive or protective heroes. Drop them in the comments. I would love to read the character, the hero, whatever, the book, whatever. This is the first time that I'm doing a possessive romance recommendations video, so my possessive heroes may be a little bit different than yours, and that's okay. We all have them, but that's how I think that they're possessive. It's not in like always in your face type of way, but I just wanted to highlight some of those because I like the heroes and I've been obsessed with them and I wanted to talk about them. So make sure you like this video, subscribe for more content from me. I hope you're living a novel life and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.